Welcome to the Beantown Podcast. This is your host, Quinn David Furness. This is my voice. This is what I sound like. We are coming to you live from Beantown, USA. Beautiful 817 St. Paul Street. Welcome to the 2018 Oscars Predictacular. How are you? What's going on? It is a lovely week here in Beantown. There is not a polar vortex coming, but some sort of vortex that's about to hit us tomorrow and Saturday. So if you haven't yet, go out and buy all the bottled water from the grocery store that you can get your hands on. We are really happy today to be joined by an old friend and old coach. He is the co-host of the Car Ride Convos Podcast. You can check that out on YouTube and SoundCloud. It is absolutely hilarious, and I actually mean that. I really enjoy listening to it. Welcome to the show, Mr. Ryan Ligon. How are you?
What's going on? I'm so excited to be on the Beantown Podcast. It's been a dream of mine, and it's really a dream come true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ryan, you are studying civil engineering at UMass. That is correct, yes?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what I do, and hate myself for it every single day.
So you'd say you're pretty qualified to make some Oscars predictions.
You know, actually, my qualifications really stem from I've seen Black Panther recently. I really feel like I know everything about film and film history. And it's just really important to me.
It's funny you should mention that. I went and saw Black Panther last night, 9:15 showing on a work night. So yeah, I was feeling a little adventurous, but I did enjoy Black Panther quite a bit. I'm not normally a huge superhero guy or a Marvel person, but for all the flaws that I had with Black Panther, there were equal, if not more, I think, really important social and political and racial and a lot of different adjective commentaries and stances that the movie took that I actually really appreciated. And I was reading, Chadwick Boseman, I think, is the lead actor, and he had an interview yesterday or something like that, and he was talking about how he views his character as the villain of the movie, Black Panther as the villain of the movie, and I actually really appreciated him saying that, because that's kind of what I was feeling the whole time when I was watching that film. I actually really didn't identify, but I saw the point of Michael B. Jordan's character quite a bit, and I liked him a lot. What are your reactions to Black Panther?
Actually, I'm not, just to preface this, and probably more so than you, but I do not like Marvel movies. It's a combination of, the first ones, there's some good stuff in there somewhere if you dig hard enough. But I've really suffered from the Marvel fatigue as of recently. But this movie definitely had a lot of redeeming factors that I really feel like I haven't been, experiencing with some of their more recent releases. So, to say that I didn't hate it is a super big plus for me. And I'm not a Michael B. Jordan fan, but I thought that dude had it on screen. Like, that guy, I want a movie, based solely around his character.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
A lot of people really draw the line at, the only two villains that Marvel has ever done right is Loki and Michael B. Jordan's character, which I'm totally, what's his name again?
Killmonger.
Killmonger. And those are the only two villains that they've really done right in the Marvel universe. And I really don't see Loki like that. I kind of see him as he's such a good anti-hero. He's even more fun than Deadpool, So I really think that Killmonger is the only, villain that Marvel's really pulled out in this entire release order that I really think is super strong. And his motivations are very clear, and there's a lot of really great comparisons between Him and Ra's al Ghul.
Sure. Batman Begins.
From Batman, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the gold standard for superhero villains is, in my opinion, Heath Ledger's Joker. And the reason Joker is so compelling is because he's not just this super powered guy who comes in and tries to beat the crap out of you. And so I think there's different types of villains, obviously, but I feel a lot more compelled by the guys who have legitimate reasons for what they're doing and not just I'm going to show up. And I always think of the final, so I know this isn't Marvel, so this isn't kosher, but the final fight between General Zod and Superman in the original Man of Steel movie, where they just like punch the crap out of each other for 10 minutes, and they're both like these invincible deities, and that's what most Marvel films feel like to me, where they're just punching each other. And it's like, you guys, occasionally one person will die, but I don't know, I never feel that moved by it. So that's my biggest beef with superhero movies. But yeah, Black Panther did a much better job of avoiding that sort of thing, in my opinion. So
no, I completely agree. And it's something that I kind of went into the movie thinking that I would hate it. And just because as of recently, every Marvel movie that I go in, I'm like, here's the same, cheesy Disney formulaic, shit that Disney puts out, and what ends up happening is I was watching, I was like, this is a very entertaining film, and I really hope we get to see more from that character,
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I saw the second Avengers, probably for the fatigue reason, and I don't know if I'm that compelled to see Age of Ultron, because it kind of looks like it's just going to be 2.5 hours of people punching each other. So I don't know if it comes out and the reviews are super positive and it's not just like, oh my god, the action was so cool, like if there's something beyond that, then I might shell out some money to go watch it. But otherwise, I feel like seen one of them, you've seen a lot of them, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, well, let's go ahead and jump into our Oscars predictions here. For the listeners, we are going to go we're going to make a prediction for every single category. I think there's 24 categories, so what we're not going to do is elaborate on categories like best documentary short subject, because I haven't seen any of them and my knowledge is as limited can be, but we will at the very least make some stabs at each category. And leading off for us, we have best animated short film. So I actually you'll have theaters around town that will, show all the animated shorts and show all the live action shorts. And the theater that's closest to me actually is doing this currently. So I had the opportunity to go watch both of those sets of films. So best animated short film, my pick is going to Lou, which is the Pixar entry. Ryan, what are your thoughts on best animated short?
Best animated short, you're going with Lou. Okay. I really have not seen any of these, but I do happen to know of Max Porter's work, who is nominated for Negative Space.
Yeah.
And so I'll just throw it out there. No elaboration. That's just got to be.
Sure.
That's got to be the one. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first year that I'd ever had the opportunity to go watch all of the short film nominees, and it actually is a really enjoyable experience. So if you ever get the chance in the future to do that in theaters, for everyone out there, I actively encourage it because it was really enjoyable. Negative Space was a really quirky, really different kind of animation, but that was fun as well. Next, we are moving on to best live action short film. So likewise, I got to see all 5 of these in theaters. This one is tough because the one that I liked the most was My Nephew Emmett, which was based on a true story about lynching in the South in the 1950s. But here's the thing. So one of these films, DeKalb Elementary, is about a school shooting, and voting opened up, I think, 2 days after the Parkland shooting. So I would be shocked if something else won. So my pick for best live action short film is DeKalb Elementary.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm going to have to go, because I haven't actually seen any of these. I'm going to have to pick My Nephew Emmett, since you gave it so good of a review, because that just seems like the right thing to do. I know the Emmett Till story.
Sure.
And, yes, it's definitely a really moving thing, and to see it, done in short form like that would definitely be something that I'm interested in. That sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think next couple one, maybe next two ones, best documentaries. I have zero elaboration because I've seen none of them. So best documentary, short subject. Boy, I am going to go with Heroin. What are you thinking, Ryan?
Heroin. Could you actually? My computer just crashed. Can you read me those again?
Sure. So no, we're gonna make the most of this here. So as I casually switch to a different one that has all the nominees on it. Okay, so we're on best documentary short, and of course it takes me to the top, and I'm looking at best picture, which is not helpful. Hey, we're avoiding dead air. We're mixing, we're mingling. It's working. Here we go.
Wait. Actually, it just popped up. Popped up. We're good. We're good.
All right.
We're good.
All right.
So the nominees are Edith and Eddie. Heaven is a traffic jam on the 405. Heroin, Knife Skills, and Traffic Stop. Those are the five.
Yep.
Yeah. I've actually seen Heroin. It's a Netflix documentary. And as far as documentaries, I could have sworn that documentary went 38 to 45 minutes. So I don't know what exactly they mean by short form, versus long, because that seems, decently long. Because I remember it wasn't short. I mean, by any means.
Sure.
I'm thinking kind of 10 to 15 minutes here.
Yeah.
But Heroin wasn't bad. It was a good, very deep dive into, heroin, which is always, I feel like, is such a white person thing to say. Like, drugs are so fascinating, but yeah. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. And as far as streamable content, everybody has Netflix. I mean, stream it. It's not bad. It's pretty good.
Great. So is that your pick?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, there we go. There we go. That's the one I feel out of all these probably least confident in, because I have no knowledge of any of it. Let's go ahead and move on here to its partner, Best Documentary Feature. The nominees we're dealing with here are Abacus, Small Enough to Jail. That's the first one. Faces, Places, Icarus, Last Men in Aleppo, and Strong Island. Likewise, with the short subjects, the feature-length documentaries, I really don't know anything about. So I'm just going to go off of what I've been reading, and that is Faces, Places. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are exactly this. Like my previous, streamable content, Icarus. Icarus, I thought, was actually, so much stronger than the Heroin short form one. It's basically just Russian doping in professional sports. Very interesting, fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
It seems very timely. Yes. Wasn't there there was a Russian curler who got booted for doping? I think that happened 2 weeks ago. That's I don't know, man.
Was she the one there? Okay. I kid you not, there was a Russian athlete that was wearing a shirt casually in South Korea that said, in Russian, it said, I do not dope.
I heard about that,
sort of
yeah.
Like meme or something like that. And she got busted for... She got busted for doping, man.
Man, it must be just so ingrained in the culture for you to... It's just you're going to get tested. I don't understand.
It's crazy.
I'm not knowledgeable
crazy.
enough about it to have a super educated opinion, but it seems really stupid on their behalf.
Oh
so.
yeah. I mean, you have to watch it. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, let's keep slogging away through the lesser nominees here. Best visual effects. Now, this is a really interesting one because I feel like everyone at the beginning was talking about Blade Runner, and if there's something Blade Runner is going to win, it has a decent shot at this. But now a lot of people are talking about War for the Planet of the Apes. So and this is not a good way to vote at all, but I have seen Blade Runner 2. I have not seen Planet of the Apes 3, so I am going with Blade Runner 2049. Ryan, what are you picking?
That's a fantastic pick you just made. Blade Runner 2049. You said you saw it?
I did see Blade Runner, yes.
Oh, it's great. It's great, and it looks beautiful. But War of the Planet of the Apes has something that Blade Runner does not, and that is Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his motion capture. So I gotta pick that one. It's hard to bet against Andy Serkis' motion capture. That guy's very brilliant, and it's time that he gets recognized for that.
What did you think about Andy Serkis and Black Panther?
So I don't remember. I'm pretty sure his character is in Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Okay.
I believe, and I really like his character.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's really weird. Some juiced up crazy guy. I don't know. I really, but I'm also a lover of all things Andy Serkis, because I was not big into the Lord of the Rings movies. And
okay.
I remember him being the one person that really captivated me when watching those.
Sure.
I'm an Andy Serkis sucker. You can call me that. You know.
Yeah, he was pretty damn crazy in Black Panther. His character is always a little on edge, and I think that's something that can make you compelling, right? You're just kind of crazy and you're not predictable. So, I thought he was good. You don't see him much in the flesh, but I know he was in The Prestige as well, a Christopher Nolan movie that a lot of people don't seem to know about who I talk to. And I'm like, oh, that's a fantastic film. David Bowie plays Tesla in it. So
yes.
It's worth a watch.
It definitely, that's a shame that a lot of people that haven't seen that movie. That's a good one.
Yeah. I'll talk to, so Christopher Nolan is, I'm no shame, one of my favorites. And, people, pretty much everyone seems to know the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception, and most people, even though I didn't like the film that much, most people seem to know Interstellar. But you mentioned The Prestige, and they're like, "Oh, I'd never heard of that." I'm like, "Oh man, it's Hugh Jackman, it's Christian Bale, Michael Caine, like a very prominent British cast." But yeah, if you're listening, you haven't seen The Prestige, it's a fantastic movie. Scarlett Johansson looks pretty fine in it, so yeah. We got to keep moving here. We have two sound nominee or categories going here, and for as much as I love movies and pride myself to a certain extent on being somewhat knowledgeable with movies, I do not have a good way of differentiating between sound editing and sound mixing in terms of what movies are more competitive than other movies in those categories. Ryan, do you have anything on the differentiation between editing and mixing from an Oscar standpoint that you can shed light on, or are you lost as well?
No, it's funny because at one point in my life I wanted to be an audio engineer. This has always been such a perplexing differentiation between the two. And the best I can tell you is that sound mixing, I think, is very exemplified by... Have you seen Dunkirk?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so sound mixing, you know how it gets your ears start bleeding at some points in Dunkirk?
Yeah.
and how obviously there's choices to really max out the audio in those situations. That's kind of, I feel like, is exemplified, in the sound mixing area by Dunkirk. And editing, I would assume, is something to do with effects layering, which would be more like a very cliche, like Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
You need the lightsaber sounds and like the swole bin memes. You need all that stuff and just like mix it in there. Yeah, that's the editing versus mixing. That's the best I got, and I really don't have any more than that, which is unfortunate considering that was a career path I once considered.
Yeah. Well, let's throw some predictions out there. I again feel unconfident, disconfident, not confident in this one. Although I feel like for each, so both categories, editing and mixing, have the same 5 films nominated, as if it wasn't confusing enough. Very helpful for us from the Academy. Everything I've been reading has said that Baby Driver could take 1 or 2 of these, but it seems like Dunkirk is probably the safer bet. I really liked Baby Driver. I thought it was a very enjoyable film for what it was. So here we go on a limb. Let me take Baby Driver for sound editing and Dunkirk for sound mixing. I have no strategy behind how I split those two up, but that's what we're saying. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go the no strategy as well, and take Baby Driver for mixing and Dunkirk for editing, as long as that's opposite.
I believe it is, but it's late enough, and I had a couple beers already tonight. We might wake up tomorrow and find out something completely differently, but that's okay, because we are going to keep moving to Best Original Song. I, for a long time, had been reading and was hearing that the song from Coco was like a lock for this, and that it wasn't really that close. I have now started to hear the song from the Hugh Jackman movie, which is embarrassing that I am forgetting, The Greatest Showman. I've been hearing that song is starting to maybe creep into the discussion, but I'm going to go with my gut for Best Original Song, and I'm going to take Remember Me from Coco.
Nice. That's a good pick. Very good pick.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd not pick either Mary J. Blige or Sufjan Stevens.
Okay.
Like that just doesn't sound like something that I wouldn't do. So I'm gonna go Mystery of Love from Call Me by Your Name by Sufjan Stevens.
Very good. Did you see Mudbound?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah. Everybody. If you're listening to it, you have Netflix. Don't act like you don't. You're stealing someone's password. You're listening to this. Watch Mudbound. It's a great movie. It's great. A little somber at times. Okay, mostly somber. But totally worth the watch. If you're paying, what is it, $9.99 a month now? $13.99 a month? I don't know. It keeps on getting jacked up. Watch Mudbound. Just do it. It doesn't take that much time. It's like an hour and 48 minutes long. It's fun.
Yeah, it's not so bad. It's definitely on my short list of. I'm not going to be able to get a viewing in before the Oscars, but yeah, definitely this month when I'm not going crazy on college basketball, I will certainly have time.
Oh yeah, man, you gotta tune into that Villanova, see when they're going to implode at any moment.
I saw. So while we were talking before this, I had the. Let's see. It was. Oh, this is a great podcast. Virginia versus Louisville on, and Louisville was beating Virginia by 2 with 1 second left, and I just had like the game cast up. I didn't have a feed up, and Virginia won by 1 point, meaning they presumably hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer with 1 second left to win. So I have no rooting interests for UVA or Louisville, although I never mind it when Louisville loses. So I'll have to check that one out on the highlight reel after we finish up here. But I was at trivia earlier tonight and watching my team, Wichita State, play Central Florida, and they got a little bit of a scare on the road that they went into overtime and won there. So, Ryan, are you a college basketball person at all?
Yeah, but I don't really have like a team. Like I set up every year, and I'm like, this is my team. Like I'm choosing this. I have no loyalties. I have no, every college I've ever gone to is like sub D2. So
yeah,
I'm not really too worried about affiliations and stuff. So I pick a team every single year, and this year I've been pretty perplexed. Virginia's playing well, but they don't excite me, just like Villanova doesn't excite me, because they both do two things really well. They both are good defenders. But as far as their offense, sometimes their offense really suffers in the drought, So,
Sure.
I don't know. I haven't made the decision yet. Eventually I will. Auburn is looking like it might be my team this year. You never know.
Okay.
Who knows?
Well, we got Selection Sunday in 10 days here, 9 days, something like that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this Big Ten tournament happening right now. Northwestern lost today, which was disappointing. So they're done for the season after last year's Cinderella, which was so cool, and this year they lay a giant egg.
Absolutely
so
killer.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing, but oh well. Let's keep going here before we run too long. So we are still on music original score. Ooh, so this is actually a really interesting one that I haven't given that much thought to. John Williams, nomination number 51. I don't think he is competitive for this, but boy, best original score. I love Hans Zimmer. I love the Dunkirk score, but I am going to go with Shape of Water on this one. I liked that score. I thought it fit the movie really well. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Well, this is kind of your expertise, right?
You would think so, but probably not.
Really, I don't know. I trust that you have me beat here. I'm gonna go with The Phantom Thread.
Okay.
There's something about the Oscars that those people, the judges, they just love eating up that biopic, old school film stuff. Very proper piano, So I'm gonna go with that one.
Sure. Okay, next we have what I think will be a quick one because I've never heard anyone else say anything else. Best makeup and hairstyling, I'm going with Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour, that's a good one. I'm going to go with Wonder.
Okay. I feel you. That's it. To me, feels like going out on a limb, although I don't know much about Wonder, so I guess we'll find out. Did you see Wonder?
No, but I've seen a lot of trailers for it, and I can just tell. But I think that you definitely have the advantage with The Darkest Hour. The only other one nominated is Victoria and Abdul, which I don't know anything about. Out of all of these movies, nope. I've not heard a single peep about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. Best film editing is next, and this is one where I think Christopher Nolan is obviously not physically winning the award for this one, but the editing for Dunkirk was just so different, but it worked that I haven't read anything else that is going to make me say, oh yeah, it's definitely going to be this one. So I like Dunkirk for best film editing. How about you?
I feel like this kind of edges into kind of the main categories, and I really feel like this is where Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing County, Ebbing, Missouri, I thought it was Ebbing County, Ebbing, Missouri, really starts cleaning up. So I'm going to have to pick John Gregory for that one.
Very good, very good. Next, we are at Best Production Design. This is a category that I admittedly feel relatively lost on. And I understand what production design is, but do I really feel confident in my ability to differentiate and pick? Not really. So I am going to go ahead, because it's not going to get anything else, and go on a limb here and say Beauty and the Beast for best production design. People aren't really talking about it. I think it's the only category that it's nominated for, but it was either the first or second highest grossing film of 2017. So let's take a sleeper pick here and go for Beauty and the Beast. What are you thinking?
Man, you know your sleeper picks. That's actually a good one. I haven't seen the movie, but my wife has, and she told me how incredibly intricate everything is on that one. But I'm going to have to go with a different intricately designed production, and that is Blade Runner 2040. You've seen the movie, so you could definitely probably agree to some degree that that's pretty crazy production design on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, there isn't really I'm looking at the nominees for that one. I don't think there's really a wrong choice for best production design. They're all very good movies. Exactly. And yeah, so I don't have much of any sort of knowledge or edge in that, but I say, hey, let's go for it. I also did not see the new Beauty and the Beast movie, but I am a big Ewan McGregor fan, so maybe one day I will check it out. I think he plays the Candlestick, something like that. Let's go ahead. I think this, at least for me, is another quick pick. Best costume design. I am going with Phantom Thread on that one.
Phantom Thread, nice. It's not loading up for me currently, but I'm gonna have to pick The Darkest Hour. I'm sure it's nominated, right?
Let's see. You're right. So we're looking at so Beauty and the Beast was nominated for this as well. Then we have Darkest Hour, Phantom Thread, Shape of Water, and your favorite, Victoria and Abdul.
Victoria. Yeah, I'm having to pick Darkest Hour on this one. That seems about the pick. You know?
If you're not careful, Victoria and Abdul is going to come in and steal Best Picture before we know what's going on.
They might just clean up all night for all we know. I have no idea.
All right, let's keep going. We're starting to get into some heavy hitters here. We're getting into that territory. Our first really big one here, Best Cinematography. Boy, this is actually one I've thought a lot about, and I'm completely torn between Blade Runner and Dunkirk. But a lot of people are talking about Roger Deakins and how many nominations he's gotten and hasn't won yet. So it feels right. I'm going to go ahead and go with Blade Runner for Best Cinematography.
That's a definitely commendable pick. That's solid. That's probably I don't know. My first choice is kind of tied, so I guess I can pick my second. But Rachel Morrison for Mudbound. I mean, absolutely killing it in that movie, which is not a surprise. I mean, she's very talented. So, but I don't see a situation where Roger Deakins or Rachel Morrison don't walk out with this thing.
Sure, and for the record, no one's saying you can't pick what I pick, so I don't want you to be losing any money here, but...
No, we're good.
All right. Well, I don't want you to make a fool of yourself on, what could be America's #1 podcast with some time here. So, let's keep going. I think this is another one that should potentially be quick, at least on my end. Best animated feature film. It's not Boss Baby. I'm going with Coco.
You're absolutely right. This is actually a pick that I will double with you, although an honorable mention should be Loving Vincent. That movie, I don't remember how long it took to make, but supposedly they painted every single frame in the Vincent Van Gogh style. Absolutely incredible, but I think Coco walks away with it. Definitely not Boss Baby, though. I mean, I don't know.
I did not see Boss Baby. Did you?
No, but I saw the trailer, and that was enough.
Well, it did something right to get nominated for an Academy Award, so, I mean...
It had to have, but it's so perplexing seeing it on here. And I'm just like, really? What's... I don't know. Andy Serkis must have been the baby or something. So some did motion capture or something.
Well,
I have no idea. I am so perplexed.
It's definitely no Victoria and Abdul, but it will do. Okay, here's another really interesting one, at least from my perspective. Best foreign language film. So I'll go ahead and read off the nominees real quick. We are dealing with The Insult, which was a lesbian film. I was surprised to see that. No, Lebanese, A Fantastic Woman. Similar but different. Fantastic Woman, which was Chilean. Loveless, which is Russian, which is coming to my theater next weekend, so I will not get to see that before the ceremony. On Body and Soul, which is Hungarian, and then The Square, which is Swedish. I have seen two of them. I've seen Fantastic Woman, and I've seen The Insult. I am going to go ahead and pick Fantastic Woman for foreign language film. What are you thinking?
Nice. I'm actually weirded out. I could have sworn there was a German film that was not. I guess I'm wrong. I guess though, because it was starring Diane Kruger. I don't remember the name of it.
I don't know off the top of my head, but we've got the internet up, thankfully, and we'll check out what's going on.
No, I mean I'm obviously wrong because I'm looking at the same list too. But I could have sworn that was nominated as well. And I'm looking at it. I'm totally dumbfounded.
In the Fade?
Yeah. I guess that wasn't nominated. Interesting.
Yeah, I guess not. No, you're right. It was selected as the German entry for the best foreign language film, but then it didn't make it to the... So it was on the short list, and it didn't make it to the final five. So
Interesting. Well, you know what? Today seems... I mean, not today, but this year just seems like the year for Russia, so I can't not pick Loveless, right?
Sure.
It seems like a perfect year for Russia to win it, you know?
Well, cheating scandals, yeah. It seems like a very... The trailer seems very intriguing. I will be going to the theater to watch that at some point in the next 2 weeks. It seems like an interesting movie, but I really don't know enough about it right now to be able to pick.
Is it animated? I can't tell from
it's not.
The screen grab. Okay.
No. Live action.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, that's foreign language film. We are into the big dogs now. Best original screenplay. So, again, nominees for best original screenplay, we have Get Out, we have Lady Bird, we have, if my list would load, I could tell you the other ones.
The Big Sick, I think, is on there.
You are probably right. Let's see. I've got two different lists going here, and it's difficult to scroll back and forth. I don't know why this one has screenplays all the way down to the bottom. Okay, original screenplay, Get Out, Lady Bird, Big Sick, Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards. This is one where I am going Get Out, not super confidently, but I don't know. I think if it's going to win anything, this is the one that it's got a shot at. Yeah,
I agree. I actually put money down on this one winning. I think the odds are definitely in favor because I remember I didn't put down a lot, and I think the outcome is like, I don't know, $300 or something for only putting down $5 or something. But I'm going to go with another long shot since you're because I agree with you. I think that, Jordan Peele, he's definitely got a good shot in this category. But I'm going to go Kumail Nanjiani and his wife, forgive me for not
Emily V.
her.
Gordon.
Okay, yeah, exactly. For The Big Sick. That's what I'm going to go with.
Very good. I liked The Big Sick. I would have loved to see Ray Romano and or Holly Hunter get some sort of nomination, but the acting fields are pretty stacked as they are.
Yeah, they're stacked, but honestly, I don't think Ray Romano has. He killed it in that movie.
It was great.
That was the one thing that came away from that movie that I was like, oh my goodness, like this guy needs more work. Like, get him out there.
Yeah. I love when he goes on Kimmel because his son works for Jimmy Kimmel, and so he always brings him out and tries to get him dates and stuff. It's pretty hilarious. You can find stuff on YouTube. But yeah, Ray Romano is a for all the hate that everybody loves Raymond gets, Ray Romano himself is actually a pretty damn funny guy. So let's keep going here. One that I feel very confident in pick-wise, Best Adapted Screenplay. We have for nominations Call Me By Your Name, Disaster Artist, Logan, Molly's Game, and Mudbound. I'm going with Call Me By Your Name on this one.
Nice. Actually, that's one of the ones that I haven't seen. I have a really hard time not picking. Do I go Aaron Sorkin or do I go Mudbound on this one? It's hard to bet against Aaron Sorkin. I'm gonna go Virgil Williams for Mudbound.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to see this Mudbound because you sure seem to be putting a lot of chips on it.
I like it.
So.
I mean, if I'm having a hard time deciding between Aaron Sorkin and Mudbound, I mean, it's definitely something worth watching.
Sure, I hear you. Okay, we are into the final stretch here. We have our 4 major acting categories, none of which, let me preface it with this, I don't feel like any of these we're going to see any surprises or upsets, but then again, I guess you never predict a surprise or an upset. That's the nature of a surprise and an upset. So let's start with Best Supporting Actress. We have Laurie Metcalf nominated. We have Allison Janney nominated. We have the lady from Phantom Thread, Leslie Manville. We have Octavia Spencer, and we have Mary J. Blige. Of course, unless you're living under a rock, you know this. Allison Janney is the big favorite for this. What I just want to say here is, yep, I'm picking Allison Janney, but man, I loved Laurie Metcalf and Lady Bird. Probably my favorite performance of the year. I think she just captured that like working class mom, just American ideal so well, and she just executed it flawlessly. So I think Allison Janney was fantastic. I think she deserves it, but I don't think Laurie Metcalf does not deserve it. But my pick for Best Supporting Actress has got to be Allison Janney. Tanya.
I'm going to have to actually go Laurie Metcalf. You know, I haven't seen the movie. I've heard a lot of buzz about her, but I also haven't seen Tanya, so I guess it's kind of fair in this realm. Actually, aside from Mudbound, I haven't seen any of the other nominations either. So, going Laurie Metcalf, she's great, and I'm excited about the Roseanne.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a continuation, I think.
Yeah, but do people know John Goodman dies at the end of Roseanne?
Apparently not. He's back, baby.
Unbelievable. Yeah, going Laurie Metcalf on that one.
Yeah, maybe we can get Roseanne to come back and sing another national anthem. Maybe the next All-Star game with Fergie. That would be great.
Please do a duet. That would just make my life so... I'd feel so much more important if that happened.
Absolutely. Actor in a supporting role. So we have Christopher Plummer, All the Money in the World. Of course, he replaced Kevin Spacey and filmed his stuff in like 35 minutes, I think. That's not correct, but Richard Jenkins, Shape of Water. 2 from 3 Billboards, we have Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell, and then Willem Dafoe, Florida Project. This is going to be kind of similar to what we just talked about in that Sam Rockwell is by and large the favorite right now, and yep, he's going to be my pick, but 2 things I want to say here. First, Michael Stuhlbarg in Call Me By Your Name was spectacular. The speech he gives at the end of it to his son, Timothée Chalamet, is probably my favorite thing I've ever seen on film. It was just amazing and so poignant. So I was really bummed that Michael Stuhlbarg did not get nominated. He was also in The Post and Shape of Water, so he just kind of managed to be in 3 of the best films of the year, which was really cool. The other thing I want to say is Willem Dafoe and The Florida Project. A lot of people I talk to have never even heard of The Florida Project and haven't seen it, of course. If you get the opportunity to watch The Florida Project, Willem Dafoe gives a spectacular performance. It's really hard to put it into words why it's so good. You just sort of have to watch it, but he plays a motel manager who sort of takes on a patronly type position, not patronly, paternal type position. Those are different words. And yeah, it's way different than Spider-Man, if that's what you're thinking of. So my pick for actor in a supporting role is Sam Rockwell. Ryan, what are you thinking?
I got a couple notes before I make my pick. Sam Rockwell, you ain't shit, buddy. Me and my wife saw you walking your dog in New York City. I think it was like west of the big park, the Big Apple. And yeah, buddy, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. We saw him, and I was just like, who is that guy? Who's that guy? And my wife and I were going back for like 25 minutes, and we were like, that's the guy from Moon. That's that guy. And yeah, just very, very interesting thing. Second point, Richard Jenkins, my boy, from DeKalb, Illinois.
There we go.
Virtually, and I grew up close to, not completely. But my pick, man, I'm going to have to, Willem Dafoe. I mean, you've seen the movie. I've seen the movie. Just an absolutely solid pick. But my ghost on this one, my what is it? What's it called? The ghost horse?
You're thinking of Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage.
Ghost Rider. Yeah, exactly. No, my
Dark Horse.
My Dark Horse. Perfect. Woody Harrelson. Not bad in 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Sure.
Not bad at all. Guy really knows how to wrap up a solid role. So.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with my parents a couple of weeks ago after they saw 3 Billboards, and we both are just really happy with how well Woody Harrelson is doing from a serious acting point. He's just a very likable figure and is a fantastic actor and just seems to be doing all the right things right now. So yeah, really,
exactly.
Really happy for him.
I'm not going to give any spoilers away or anything like that, but he writes a note at some point in the movie, and you can really tell by what he has to say with the note and what sort of connotations the note has. The guy who wrote this movie needs to write more.
Yeah.
He's a playwright. He's very famous as far as New York plays go. Yeah, this guy needs to do more stuff because I mean, you and your family saw the movie, just absolute killer. It's a very moving speech from the letter. It's very crazy.
Absolutely. Let's plug on here. Actress in a leading role, we have Sally Hawkins from Shape of Water, Frances McDormand from 3 Billboards, Margot Robbie from I, Tonya, Meryl Streep from The Post, and Saoirse Ronan from Lady Bird. I am again gonna go with the flow here and take Frances McDormand, 3 Billboards. 2 notes. I really liked Sally Hawkins in Shape of Water. I don't know Sally Hawkins very well, but to do what she did in that film without saying a single word pretty much, and the emotion that she put in her facial expressions is really well done. So I commend her for that. And then Saoirse Ronan, this is her 3rd Oscar nomination, and she's 23, 24, I think. That is pretty damn amazing. So she was wonderful in Lady Bird as well. I just think Frances McDormand is in a different stratosphere for this performance specifically. So I'm going to stay mainstream and pick Frances McDormand.
Solid. I got to follow suit. I really don't feel like that there's any other nominee other than Frances McDormand that's going to come away with this one.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about that, it just says, I was thinking about it, Margot Robbie in I, Tonya, that was a wonderful film, and all the acting in there was great. And Allison Janney will steal the headlines because, kind of like Gary Oldman, she just completely took over that role. Gary Oldman didn't play Tonya Harding's mom. It was actually Winston Churchill. But no, Margot Robbie is kind of going overlooked in this category, which is fair because I don't think that she's competitive, but her performance in I, Tonya was really strong. If you haven't seen I, Tonya, it's a really captivating, entertaining movie, like very well paced, very well edited. Music is wonderful. So I, Tonya was a really enjoyable film as well. Let's finish up the acting category here. One that might be the biggest lock out of anything we have on the circuit today. Actor in a leading role, we have Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel, Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour, Daniel Kaluuya, Get Out, Daniel Day-Lewis, Phantom Thread, and Timothée Chalamet, Call Me By Your Name. My two notes here are that Timothée Chalamet was amazing, and I truly believe that the performance he gave in this film was leaps and bounds worthy of an Oscar. The other thing, Daniel Day-Lewis said that this is going to be his last film. He was great as well in Phantom Thread, but it was so, I guess, subtle and controlled that it's just not enough to compete against Timothée Chalamet or Gary Oldman, in my opinion. And of course, it's what everyone's talking about. Gary Oldman's finally going to get his Oscar for Darkest Hour, and I am not going to be the guy who picks against that. Ryan, your thoughts?
I'm going to have to follow suit on this one. It's really hard to. I have money on Daniel Day-Lewis. I have 10 on Daniel Day-Lewis, I believe. Which I think if he wins, I can't remember if it's him or the Post, but $10 down gets you like $700 or something like that. And I just don't see like why he would ever not bet against Daniel Day-Lewis.
Sure.
But at the same time, I know Gary Oldman is a lot. I know Timothée Chalamet is a second runner-up, and if it is a dark horse, it really is Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
I feel wrong saying Kaluuya because it just sounds like alcohol, you know?
Yeah.
But Denzel Washington in Roman J. Israel Esquire is not half bad at all. And that guy, he needs to be he's going to be in this category for, God knows how many years. I mean, just a solid actor, one of the best. I don't see it not going to Gary Oldman, though. I really don't. I feel like in that movie, he has speech after speech after speech after speech after speech that's just so on point with his character and stuff. And I love the transformation. And I guess he went to the hospital because of how many cigars he was smoking on set or something. He got tobacco poisoning. I don't know. He deserved it.
Yeah. I don't know. I want Timothée Chalamet to win so much because I just really loved his performance. But at the end of the day, I find myself being like, oh yeah, I can't believe Gary Oldman's going to win. Then I'm like, wait, no. Gary Oldman is one of my favorites, and he totally deserves it. I think the only thing that makes me a little upset is this movie, in my opinion, was total Oscar bait. But that's okay because he played it so well, and I can't complain. Gary Oldman was fantastic. But that actually transitions, that kind of thought right there transitions me into our last category here, which is, of course, Best Picture. The nominations are Three Billboards, Shape of Water, The Post, Phantom Thread, Lady Bird, Get Out, Dunkirk, and Call Me By Your Name, and Darkest Hour. So the one thing I wanted to say here is I'm a little upset that Darkest Hour got nominated for Best Picture because I felt like it kept I, Tonya off of it. And I really liked I, Tonya a lot more, honestly, than I liked Darkest Hour. So that was my only film that I would like to switch out. Other than that, watch all these films, most of them at least twice. And yeah, I just really liked all of them. Before we pick, Ryan, go ahead and elaborate a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely watched Dunkirk twice. Definitely. I'm normally pretty immune to, the editing process. But this one, for about 5 seconds, had me reeling just a bit. But I have to second your thoughts on The Darkest Hour. It is such a total biographical Oscar clickbait film, and that's not to discredit Gary Oldman's performance whatsoever. It has purely to do with the film And I feel like I, Tonya is a movie that the Academy has a really hard time pulling in because it has the it has editing similar to The Big Short. If you remember that film from, was it 1 year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Man, it may have been 3 years ago. I'm so old. But the Academy really doesn't like editing like that, where it really breaks the fourth wall at times and or has a documentary style, a twist. As far as notes go, there's a couple of these movies that I have not seen that I really can't wait to. As far as narrative goes, the Academy really wants to pick the post. They really want to. They won't. I have a few feelings at who they're going to pick instead of that. But, there's always like a narrative that the Academy wants to follow. And sometimes they want to soapbox and get political. And the post is something that they really, really, really want to pick. Get Out is kind of a second to that. But honestly, I just feel like Get Out is a legitimately good film. So I don't feel like it, as much. But there's a lot of good talent in this category. And if it went to anything except for The Darkest Hour, I feel like, and possibly The Phantom Thread in some ways, but Daniel Day-Lewis is a good actor. I feel like it'd be justified. I feel like there's not a whole lot of Oscar clickbait this year compared to most years. Some years, it just gets too gratuitous. But this year seems to be the exception, especially with, Let's see, nine nominations. That's pretty incredible. 9 nominations and one, maybe two, let's call it 1.5, Oscar clickbait films.
So the one thing I want to say before we make picks is that we completely botched a category. And by botched, I mean missed. That's my fault. I've been leading the conversation here. We did not pick a director.
My goodness, that's not good.
Before we give our final picks for Best Picture here, let's very briefly just run through the directing category because I already feel very confident in my pick. We have Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Jordan Peele for Get Out, Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird, Paul Thomas Anderson for Phantom Thread, and Guillermo del Toro for Shape of Water. I have no reservations about this pick. I think Guillermo del Toro is going to win this one.
Man, I'm gonna definitely dark horse this one a little, but I'm gonna go Greta Gerwig on this one.
Very good, very good. I would love to see any one of these 5 people win it. Honestly, I like all of them, and all 5 of their movies were spectacular in their own right. And yeah, but I don't know. I'm very influenced by the conversation on this because everyone seems to be talking about how Guillermo del Toro's got this one in the bag, but I could see Jordan Peele as a dark horse here. Christopher Nolan finally got a nomination, and Dunkirk was just so good. Paul Thomas Anderson never disappoints. So yeah, it's I don't know. I feel pretty confident that del Toro is going to win this one, but we will see in a couple of days here. Okay, last thing we have to do here is make our Best Picture picks, and I am being completely honest right now in that I have thought about this for weeks and weeks, and up until this moment, I still don't have a pick that I feel confident in. In my opinion, it's coming down to 3 films. So I see, and I kind of parallel this to last year. So last year I felt like La La Land and Manchester by the Sea were both really strong contenders, and then Moonlight was also a contender, but more of the dark horse candidate. For me this year, I view that as Shape of Water and 3 Billboards kind of being the 2 front runners, and Get Out being that dark horse candidate. For as much as I loved Dunkirk, I just don't think the Academy is going to go for it. And I also really loved Call Me By Your Name, and it might be my favorite movie of the year along with Lady Bird, but they don't seem to be legitimate contenders for it. So on the spot now, having to make a pick for Best Picture, I am going to go with Get Out. And that's maybe my boldest pick of the night here. But Ryan, what are you thinking for Best Picture?
Man, you just went completely dark horse in it. I like it. my thought process behind it is, like I said before, the Post, that's their political statement. That's what they want to make. But I don't think they're going to make it this year. And I think it's either, the favorite is either, like you said, The Shape of Water or Three Billboards. And the real dark horses, the political statement is Get Out and Lady Bird. There's just such young, raw talent in those two films. Man, I got to give it to Three Billboards, though. That is, it's hard not to pick that one.
Yeah. So the one thing that just kept sticking in the back of my head as I was going through these films is that, in my opinion, the last 2 years, dark horses won. So 2 years ago, it was Spotlight, the Mark Ruffalo film. And then last year, of course, Moonlight won. Neither of those films came into the award ceremony like the clear frontrunner. Not that there was necessarily a clear frontrunner, although I would argue La La Land was a pretty clear frontrunner last year. So I am just going to try to keep riding that train of Dark Horse, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. You alluded to this, the only film I'm going to be upset if it wins is Darkest Hour, but I can't imagine a world where that happens. These were all films that I enjoyed, had no reservations with them except for Darkest Hour being a little bit of Oscar bait, but yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I did like Get Out. Thought it was a really important film and just spectacular that was Jordan Peele's kind of first shot at it, and that's what he came up with was really cool to see. So, Ryan, do you have any last second thoughts on this year's Oscars?
Who's hosting the Oscars this year?
Jimmy Kimmel's hosting it again.
Oh, wow. About other predictions that I have, I really don't see that they're going to mess up the Best Picture winner this year. I can't imagine they do that 2 years in a row, right?
You wouldn't think so, no.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on late night hosts? How do they rank for you?
Oh, late night hosts. Wow, this is out of left field.
Oh yeah.
Are we throwing in late night, like late hosts?
Are you talking like Carson Daly or what? No, anyone who's on after 10 p.m. qualifies in my book.
All right. So I think that the real dark horse winner of this entire thing is that I don't remember if he's Scottish or he's Irish, but he's not. You can't watch him on American cable. What is his name?
That is Dark Horse.
That's so Dark Horse. Hold on. But first, I gotta go Colbert.
Sure.
And I think that his show has really developed over the years, and not over the years. I think it's only been like 3 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gone from people were really complaining about his records for the longest time, with audience and stuff like that. But it's really developed over the year. But I will give him that a lot of it has to do with things politically and stuff like that. People are really drawn to a political show nowadays. That's the reason why Seth Meyers is kind of thriving right now.
Yeah.
As opposed to before that, people were very concerned about that time slot. But I gotta go Colbert number 1. Number 2, Jimmy Kimmel. I really like his... and I think it has to do with a lot of his connections in LA and stuff like that, how he's able to... he's interacting with sports, he's interacting with politics, he's interacting with celebrity. I mean, he's all over the place. And I can't say that is, the same everywhere else. Third is Fallon. I feel like he's kind of dropped off recently, and I feel like that a lot of it has to do with the fact that, Americans don't want the very posh, fun, let's be silly show. I think that we're kind of in like a very serious time. And then behind him is Seth Meyers, and then behind him is
Corden.
Yeah, James, not Josh.
Yeah.
James Corden. But the dark horse here, I don't know if you've heard of him, but Graham Norton.
Oh yeah, I know Graham Norton's show.
UK. Killer.
Absolutely,
Killer.
He's great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Side note: Carson Daly is last. Carson Daly will be last.
Last in the ratings and in the time slot.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, he's. I like his music acts, but he's just kind of a very uninteresting person, you know. And of course, his show format is completely different. Like, it's not even. It's unfair that I'm even throwing him in this category, but I'm just doing it just because that's the way it's set up, you know. So.
Well, if they push Carson Daly back any further into the night, he's going to start hosting the 0th hour of the Today Show. So,
serious.
Well, great. That's the podcast. I mentioned in our conversation before we started that I tried to keep it to 30 to 40 minutes. I'm glad to see that we did make it in that time frame. So no worries about going on too long. But Ryan Ligon, do you want to give a quick highlight of your current podcast that you're hosting?
Yeah, man. Check us out on YouTube. We're at Car Ride Convos Podcast, also on SoundCloud. We have some crazy stuff in the works. I'm not going to say when it's coming out, what exactly it is, but there's some weird stuff coming up, and just stay tuned. And the reason why you should really stay tuned to the Car Ride Convos Podcast is because we're the only podcast that could end in a fiery car accident and the resulting death of 2 people co-hosted the podcast. Thanks for having me on, Quinn.
Yeah, you're going to be on edge the whole time. It's as much a thriller as it is a comedy and just people talking. So I appreciate that. Ryan, we'll hang on to you for 1 second after the podcast ends to wrap things up and get you your payment, of course. But no, I'm just kidding. This has been the Beantown podcast with Quinn David Furness. I do want to give my listener discretion is advised tag just in case there are any adult words that we use after this, which is not going to happen. First, might be using some profane language here and there, and second, the podcast is just objectively terrible. Anyways, this has been the Oscars Predictacular, excuse me. The Oscars are Sunday, March 4th at sometime, I don't know, when the sun goes down. Jimmy Kimmel's hosting. Be sure to check it out. It's on ABC. Thanks for listening if you made it this far, and I hope you are having a great weekend. Bye.